What's going on, guys? This is Derek with Team Evolution Rush of IKORR, coming to you with another deck profile, a new deck profile for a Set 1 avatar, SUSANOO Untamed Gale. And I'm going to be giving you the upgraded version of this deck with all the new Set 2 cards, because this avatar got a lot of very powerful cards between blue and purple. So really quick, before I get into the profile, just want to thank everyone who watches my videos. I appreciate any views, likes, definitely subscribes. Hey, if anyone's new to the game or trying to get into the game or whatever, and you like what content I'm doing here, give me a sub. My goal is to just kind of keep pushing this game a little bit more. I want to show off different decks, different profiles. I have some other videos planned in the future where we're going to be talking about some of Set 2's best cards. I have another video planned for kind of talking about all the new avatars and kind of ranking them based off of my thoughts. But mostly I'm going to be doing some new deck profiles. With Set 2 having been out for a few weeks now, there's not a ton of deck information for people to kind of look at. So of course, that's what I'm trying to do, is get some of these new profiles out there. So yeah, with that being said, just wanted to go through that really quick. But let's dive into the deck profile. So SUSANOO Untamed Gale is a very powerful avatar. It's blue-purple, which is huge for control. My teammate actually played this deck at the remote regional and got third. Arguably probably could have won it. But yeah, it's a very, very good control deck. It's very strong if you're willing to kind of just learn how to play the long game with it. But this deck also is very much a pyramid deck with the Great Pyramid. This deck we've nicknamed, well, my teammate has nicknamed it the Pyramid Scheme, which is awesome because that's basically what you're doing. This deck is really trying to take advantage of SUSANOO's ability to get a lot of IKORR onto the pyramid and win the game that way. And you have so much control tools to do it that it makes it a very frustrating deck to play. So SUSANOO's ability is you pay 2 to retreat an allied champion. Very simple. Its rush ability is until the end of this turn. When an allied champion would retreat, it strikes an opposing champion, then retreats. That does come up sometimes, which is pretty good. But we're mostly focusing on its normal ability. So keeping that in mind, like I said, this deck is very much a pyramid deck, which pyramid is a location that when a champion you control leaves the battlefield in any way, store all IKORR held by that champion on this champion, and then its action is to secure an IKORR. So with SUSANOO's ability and a lot of the other cards in the deck, we are basically just getting pyramid online, bouncing cards over and over to get a bunch of IKORR onto the pyramid and ultimately just winning the game. If you are not prepared for locations or you don't have a way to deal with pyramid, this deck can be very frustrating to play against. Now, this particular profile also doesn't really have anything in it to protect the pyramid. If tournaments come up in the future and this is a deck you want to play, I would probably recommend trying to find cards that protect the pyramid. There are, I think, 1 or 2 infusions, and there is 1 or 2 champions out there that can kind of protect your locations from being destroyed the turn, or for a turn or stuff like that you can kind of use over and over thanks to SUSANOO. So something to just keep in mind that we don't have in this list right now, but in the future, it's something that we could obviously consider if we think that locations or that location removal is going to be kind of big. Now, going into that, the deck profile itself, again, we are just abusing the heck out of pyramid. We want to get pyramid online as quickly as possible, and we want to just get the IKORR as quickly as possible. So going into the other cards of the deck, we have 2 Laborer. This is a 1-cost 1/2 with the infusion Roaring Aegis that makes our avatar power cost 0. So cool little thing with this card, if you have pyramid and you play this and then raid and then bounce it with SUSANOO for free, then you can secure that IKORR immediately because it will go to the pyramid and then you can secure it that turn. So it is a way that you can kind of just lock in IKORR immediately with this card. But it's just a good combo piece to just use SUSANOO's ability for cheaper at the end of all your plays, and something you can kind of use over and over and over. Then we have 2 Disguised Shinobi. We attach the Favorite of Isis to it, which means that you can activate a location on summon. And this is one that if it attacks and doesn't die, you can retreat it. So if you use it wisely, you can kind of use it over and over. But again, there are cards that can bounce it in this deck as well to just utilize that activate a location over and over and over, which is fantastic. We have 2 new cards, which is the Howler Monkeys. So this card's great. This card is a 1/2/1, and it says raid, store an IKORR on another allied champion. So this card does have to have another champion to kind of go with it. But you store it on another allied champion, which means that if you can bounce the champion you stored it on, you can put that on the pyramid, right? And then when this secures an IKORR, it retreats itself, which is great. The two that we have attached to this is Hamayumi, deal 1 damage up to a target champion, but if it's a demon, destroy it. So just give us a little bit of demon removal in the deck, which is great. Pinging for 1 is also nice. But the other one, we have the new Tressus of Nephthys, which is a very good infusion. It's almost better than the Jade Funerary Mask, to be honest. So when it dies, you get to add any card from your graveyard to your hand, which is phenomenal. So essentially this card raids, and then if your opponent doesn't want it to secure, to bounce itself, they have to kill it. Well, you're going to get a card back, which is really good. So great addition to the deck. They definitely put in work. Two, yeah, I don't like saying this name, we just call him Naked Guy. But we got a Naked Guy with Eye of Ra attached to it. Obviously, Eye of Ra is just a phenomenal infusion that, you know, can void champions very easily. So sticking it on a cheap champion that we can bounce back and forth and then use it over and over, it just makes sense, right? It's a great piece of removal. Just, you know, especially if you're playing against decks where if you void certain champions and they have no way to get cards back from the void, which basically is anything outside of black, that can be a huge loss for a lot of decks, especially if you get rid of a lot of their key cards. So, yeah. And then we have 1 copy of Industrious Farmer with Curious Relic. So this is just another cheap 1-drop to help us dig for some of our pyramids and just early pieces early on in the game. Very simple. Next, we have 2 Accomplished Architect, and we have the new Curse of the Kami infusion on this, which makes it cost 1, but it stuns itself when it's played. So before, we'd play this at 2, search for pyramid, raid for 2 because it had experience on it, which was great. But now we have a 1-drop that we can utilize just to get the pyramid. So it's just a 1-cost, get pyramid to your hand with a 3-body, which is fantastic because it probably means it's going to stick around at least for a turn. So yeah, very good infusion for that one. Then we have the new Hull Pop. So Hull Pop, there's a couple infusions you can stick to this guy, but the one that we have on this one is Huhudal, which is whenever you refresh an influence by card effect, you draw a card. And then it triggers only once during the turn. And then his normal summon ability is to draw a card and refresh 1. So you play this on 2, draw a card and refresh 1, which effectively makes it a 1-cost. Then you get to draw another card off of the infusion. And if you have a 1-drop, you can utilize it. So on the second turn of the game, for instance, you can play this, then maybe you draw into your Architect or just one of your 1-drops, and yeah, you just got some stuff going. Really good with the Howler Monkey too, right? Because you can play this on 2, refresh 1, then play the Howler Monkey, raid with the monkey, sticking an IKORR onto this. It can't raid, but you can still get something onto it. So it's just a good little, again, combo draw piece to help us dig through the deck, but it also works really well with a lot of the 1-drops. And being able to bounce it over and over to get those extra draws is very good. I mean, being a 1-cost draw too is very good, despite not having great stats and not having IKORR. Doesn't matter, we can kind of manipulate that, right? So it's very good. The other infusion you can stick on this is the one where it basically lets you draw 2 cards and cost 1. I think it's like, it's either when you draw a card, I think it's when you draw a card, you refresh 1, more or less. So you draw a card, refresh 1, and then because you refreshed, or because you drew a card, you draw another card. I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head, but it effectively makes it a 0-cost draw 2 that can kind of be manipulated as well, which is nice. Then we have the Mischievous Troop, arguably one of the best cards in the deck. This card I was super excited for when it got revealed for this deck. So it's a 3-cost 2/2 that raids for 2, and on raid, it retreats an allied champion, which is great. It can even retreat itself, which is crazy. So if you have Pyramid on the board, and then you raid with this, you can just immediately bounce itself and stick two IKORR on the Pyramid. Sure. And if it secures it, you retreat this champion, which is also fine. Its other ability is that when an allied champion is retreated, you get to deal X damage to target opposing champion, where X is the amount of IKORR stored on the retreated champion. So if you got 1 or 2 IKORR on the champion, you bounce with it, you can deal 1 or 2 damage, which is excellent. And then the 2 infusions that we have on this is Hermes Lyre, because we have a decent amount of Mayas. So obviously being able to play this and stick 1 extra IKORR on everything is huge, especially if you bounce a bunch of it. And then Ahu's Headdress, which is if you have another Maya, it can't be attacked, which can just make its secure ability more threatening, just to keep retreating and sticking stuff on the Pyramid. So yeah, very, very, very powerful card for this deck. And God, it can be really frustrating to deal with this, going back and forth on the bouncing and stuff like that, because sometimes you get to a point where you can't really like interact with these cards, and it becomes very frustrating. And if you don't have Pyramid removal or just location removal, it's even more frustrating because they're just always going to get IKORR, and you just can't really do anything about it. Then we have 2 Swift Messengers, still with the Scroll of Curses and Kusanagi, just good control tools, draws cards, stuns things. That just hasn't really changed, so not much to explain there. And then still the one Kitsunubi with Helm of Hades just makes it to where bouncing again your stuff or avoiding them for the turn, or even your opponents to just kind of like manipulate the board. This also, if one of your champions gets voided for the turn, that IKORR goes to the pyramid because it left the field. So just another way to kind of frustrate the opponent, especially with Helm of Hades. Your opponent can't interact with this, which means that you're going to guarantee yourself one IKORR when you play this. So if you bounce that over and over and over and just kind of consistently manipulate the board with it, it's very frustrating because you just basically can never interact with it. And then we have two Michizukis. Sorry, let me clarify. That's all for the infused based cards. Two Michizukis, this is, still the same, just a very good 4-drop removal. Probably one of the best 4-drops in the game, period. So if you're playing purple, you just kind of have to play it. Same with Toyotomi, just one of the best 5-drop removals in the game. This card is just a board wipe, more or less. And then we are still playing one copy of Pegasus. Pegasus is very clutch, deals damage, good body, rage for 2. You can, again, bounce it back and forth, which is really good. So very strong, very, very strong. Comboing this, any of these cards really, with the Mischievous Troop is crazy because Mischievous Troop gives us another way to bounce cards outside of Susanoo's ability, which is why the Mischievous Troop is so powerful. So later on in the game, you can like play these really powerful cards, and if they're still alive, then you can just play the Troop, raid, and bounce them at any point in time to just reuse them again. So it's very good. And that's it for all of the champions. For the spells, we have 2 Calculating Theorist, which is just purely consistency. Basically look at the top 3 cards, put one of them in your hand, pretty simple. 2 Thunderbolts, removal. 2 Envious Exploit. Deal 2 damage to target undamaged champion. If this champion dies, retreat target champion you control. Pretty good. Again, you have to kind of use it a little combo-y, but why not? It's a 1-cost bounce your stuff. If you kill an undamaged champion, that's huge. The undamaged part makes it a little tricky, but it's still a very good spell to use. 2 Blessing of Isis, just again location control or location activation, so we gotta play it. 2 copies of Tsukiyomi's Twilight. Now this card, where if you don't have these, then you can play Typhoons, you can play whatever other spells you want. But if you have them, you can definitely get away with playing 1. We like playing 2 just because this deck is so control based that once you get to that turn 5 and beyond, honestly, your opponent has a really hard time winning the game from that point. So seeing this or having the chance to see it early on matters. And also there are cards in the game now that allow your opponent to mill and different things like that. So if this gets milled or discarded or something and you only have 1 copy, well then you're just kind of screwed. You're never going to see it again. So this card can sometimes just win the game on the spot for you because it gives you an entire turn, especially if you play it when your opponent's about to win the game. It just sets everything up for you. So absolutely busted card in this deck. 2 Overindulgence, one of the best removal spells in the game. Have to play it. And then we're playing 2 Piercing Chatter, another new spell. It's a 4-cost, retreat target champion, store all IKORR stored on that champion on an allied champion. So this card, as you can imagine, is pretty insane in this deck because you can say, like, target your opponent's champion, bounce it, the one that's raiding, and then, sorry, I had to make a quick cut. But, yeah, this card's insane. So basically, if you do that, you raid with your champion, bounce one of your opponent's champions that's raiding, and then use SUSANOO's ability or something to bounce that champion. All that IKORR goes onto the pyramid. So you're basically stealing your opponent's IKORR, storing it all on the pyramid, and you're solid. It's good. So this card's really, really, really good in this deck. And then lastly, we're playing 2 Poseidon's Poseidon's Wrath. Insane removal card. This card's crazy because it's better than just bouncing cards, and in some ways even destroying cards, right? Because it doesn't say cost, attack, specifics or anything like that. It's just if your opponent has like 3 really big champions or just 3 really frustrating champions, the card just deals with it and puts them on the bottom, which for some decks, they're not going to see those cards till the end of the game. So this card's huge. You could still play Typhoon. Obviously Typhoon's missing in this deck, but Typhoon never really came up that often when we were testing. So I don't think it's as powerful moving forward. I think this card's just ultimately better. Typhoon obviously can combo well with the deck in the pyramid. We understand that, but I think that this card's just stronger. It's just a better removal card. But you can play 1 Typhoon, 1 of this, whatever. One card that I do want to highlight is the USA. Now, we don't have a copy of this in the deck, and I kind of want to find a way to squeeze a copy. And the reason is her secure ability, which is the next time a spell is put in your graveyard from anywhere this turn, return it to your hand. it allows you to just reuse some of these really, really good spells like Piercing Chatter, Overindulgence, Blessing of Isis even, right? It just allows you to kind of get double usage out of some of these spells, which can be very, very, very annoying for the opponent. So I would consider trying to find a place for this card in the deck, but for now it's not in there. And that's it. That is the new SUSANOO 2.0. Very, very powerful deck. I would definitely advise giving it a try. It's basically just manipulating the pyramid as much as possible and controlling the board state as much as possible. Again, if you're playing around people that have location removal, I would probably find a way to squeeze in a few cards that can protect the location. Because there's that one card that I think it says your location can't be destroyed or targeted for the turn. So if you stick that on like a 1-drop and then just bounce it back immediately, you can kind of do this little loop that prevents your pyramid from basically ever being destroyed, which is obviously really good. So something to consider. But other than that, that's the deck for SUSANOO. So appreciate the watch. Let me know what you guys think of the deck profile, and stay tuned for more. Thanks.